What is up, y'all? Welcome to the Truth About Him podcast and one podcast, Mental Health and Wellness. I'm Anthony.
I'm Barron.
Welcome to the happy hour.
Happy hour. I like that.
You like
happy
that?
hour.
Another week of the podcast. So we back last week on location. This week back in the studio.
We back in the studio.
So we're here. How's the week for you?
It's thank God I was a hurdler in high school. So yeah, just been.
We texted about that.
Yeah, yep. Just getting, things arise in life for us to figure out a way to get over it.
Right.
And the more you figure out the ways to get over it, the easier it becomes. At this point, you just know that they are arriving. They are arriving. So when you see them arriving, then you got to figure out, all right, I got to go into my hurdle mode.
Right.
So just been hurdling this week, and I've learning to try to get some more rest. Not quality rest. Quality rest is what I'm trying to learn to understand.
What do you define as quality rest?
REM sleep, just actually sleeping and without having to be concerned about the unknown, so to speak.
The unknown.
The unknown.
What's the unknown?
Yeah. Exactly what it is.
Like,
shit you just don't know.
I know what it is, but unpack that more for you. Like we said, unknown. What do you mean by like unknown?
I'm a control freak. I like to know what's around the corner. I like to know what's ahead of me so that I can navigate where I am now to know what's ahead of me. And sometimes you don't know what's ahead of you, especially when you jump into a space that's new to you, so to speak.
Tilt your mic a little more. Yeah.
So just not going into new spaces always makes me anxious. Always makes me. But I like that though. I like being sharp because it keeps me sharp. It keeps me on point. So
how are you sharp and on point with no sleep?
That's the battle. Because, like I said, I don't mind being in uncomfortable spaces and new situations, because I learned that in sports and in college that you got to always reinvent yourself. You have to always, learn new stuff, learn new skills, and it's gonna be nerve-wracking, but you have to be confident that you're gonna learn it and you're gonna understand it. And I got that part, but now it's just that. The quiet times. When I'm not busy, it's those quiet times that I'm plotting, I'm thinking, I'm thinking about stuff that maybe 9 times 10 people ain't thinking about.
Right. So do you take those quiet times as times to reset, or are you constantly thinking about what's behind you, what's here, what's in front of you? So
constantly thinking.
That's not your reset time.
That's not my reset time.
What is your reset time? that should be a reset time. When is your reset time? Or do you have a reset time?
I don't think I have a reset time. I don't think I have a reset time, and I'm trying to navigate to see exactly when I can get that reset time. Because when we say I don't sleep, people are thinking like you're just been up for, it's 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, an hour here, stuff like that. So, but it's not like that REM deep sleep.
Right.
So therein lies your issue. So I'm learning. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out some, I got accountability partners right here. So I'm trying to figure some stuff out on how to learn to reset.
Oh, I mean, accountability partner?
Might as well be, bro.
Okay, well,
I tell you.
Say less. So say less. Okay, say less. So you say you're trying, right? So let's X that out. What are you committed to?
As far as rest?
Yeah, as far as rest, reset, because that quiet time is supposed to be your sleep time. True. Or if you're just sitting there doing nothing, that's when your brain resets, your body recharges, all your cells regenerate, right? So if you're not getting that, your mental and physical is suffering, right? So you're saying you're trying to do X, Y, Z. So my question, okay, not trying, what are you committed to doing now?
Right. I am committed to.
Now, before you answer, no, this is recorded.
Oh,
okay. In case you didn't know.
Okay. Well, physical rest is not a problem for me. Like resting my body is not a problem for me. I can sit and rest my body As long as I got a laptop in my hand and we
That's not rest, brother.
I'm resting my body.
No,
My
you're
body is
not.
resting. I'm rejuvenating. I'm
You're
healing.
not.
My mind probably isn't.
Nah.
You don't think it's not?
Nah.
Well,
1,000% no.
okay. So then I am committed to figuring out a way to rest mind, body, and soul on a consistent basis.
Okay. Okay.
That works.
We'll check in again next week. Throughout the week, we'll check in with the people
We'll check in with y'all
next week.
Absolutely.
All right. Cool.
How's your week though? Let's how has your week been?
My week has been, it's been, I've had some hurdles as well.
Thank God for track.
Thank God for track, and it's crazy because I tell my kids are in sports now, track, basketball, football, and I tell them that sports prepares you for life because
Absolutely.
there are so many different conditions that you train under. It gets your mental right. Like on a track, you can have a warm track meet, a cold track meet, and a hot track meet, right?
Yep.
You have to perform under any conditions, right? You can't make the excuse, well, it's too cold, well, it's too hot. Well, no, because if the person who beat you can do it, or if they beat you, then you can do it. So sports prepared me for life. Being a champion in sports prepared me to be a champion in life. So when you use the analogy of the hurdle, that like, you know what, and sometimes, and my comeback was, well, sometimes you hit them, right? You jump them, you hit them, and you fall, but then you get back up. I was at a track meet where this guy hit a hurdle. He fell on the track. He skinned up his knees and his shoulders. He was bruised up, but he got back up and he finished the race.
You watched my race? That was my race.
I'm sure that's the race of life, right?
Yep.
But a lot of times people take the bumps and the bruises as a sign to quit, as a sign to stop. I'm done. I can't do this because I just suffered a major I don't say injury, but I stalled. I stopped.
Yeah.
But I remember this. I was never a fan of the current Rocky movies, right?
Okay.
But I was watching one of the last ones, and he was talking to his son, who was an adult, and the son was telling his father was older. Well, you know what? You can't. This guy's older than you. He's younger than you. He's bigger. He's stronger, and he's faster. Why are you fighting this guy, right? And now, as your son, I have to live up to the expectations of my last name. Everywhere I go, it's Stallone, Stallone, Stallone. I have to live up to this. And Rocky said, you know what, son? You can't really be so concerned with how other people see your life, right? Because people are going to judge you regardless.
Right.
And it's not about how hard you get hit, but it's how hard you can take the hit and get back up and keep going, right? And that's what life's about. Life's about taking hits and getting stronger. These boxers, can take hits more because they get their core stronger. They exercise, they do all this stuff.
Yep.
So my point is that hurdles are going to be there, right? It's just how you respond to those hurdles, how you get back up, because we're going to get hit left foot, right hook, jab. It's going to happen. Right, because you're living and breathing and walking in this world, it's going to happen. But it's how you take it, how you respond to it, how you get back up. Do you get back up in defeat, or do you get back up? You know what? I got to train harder, right? So my week told me that I have to train harder because I have to continue to fight these battles and be victorious, right?
I completely agree with that. Like it's amazing we're talking about hurdles, but literally, when I first started running hurdles, though, they looked like they were 6 feet high. And I was telling my coach, like, I can't jump over those. And I'm thinking, you're supposed to jump over them. First thing he told me is, you're not jumping over them. Once you learn the technique, you're stepping over them. You're gliding over them.
Right.
So as long as you follow the technique, while everybody is jumping over them because they feel like they have to jump over them, they're losing time in the air.
Right.
And you're learning to just step over them, which is going to make you faster, which is going to make you stronger. So that it goes back to the application of knowledge.
Find me a video of your hurdles, please. Just look for one.
Of me?
Yeah, you hurling. Yeah.
I literally have my worst race on DVD.
Have you seen it, Sean? No?
You haven't seen it?
Okay, well,
I know
wanna see
exactly
it.
where it is.
I want to see it.
I would definitely get it, but and all you're gonna hear is "Down goes Benjamin." I was leading the race, and we're at Fresno, and boom, lane 5, right in the middle. I got clipped, fell.
What'd you learn from that?
Well, I didn't learn right away.
Of course.
Never learned right away. I failed the first time. I did not get up on that race. I was embarrassed. I wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
I wasn't hurt. I was in first place. I was the projected winner.
Yeah.
But I was embarrassed, so I didn't get up.
Yeah.
I laid there, and I was so embarrassed that I got up when the race was over, walked off, found some solitude time to myself because I was angry, and when I finally got over all of that, my coach came and grabbed me, and he said, first thing he told me was, "What did you learn?"
Right.
What did you learn? And I looked at him. I said, I ain't learned shit. Like, I'm mad. Like, what do you mean? What I failed? He was like, well, do you want to know what I learned?
Yeah.
Sure. What did you learn? Well, what did you learn from seeing me fall? That you're not strong enough to be a leader yet. Because as soon as you
That's
took
what
the
he told
lead,
you? Oh, wow.
that's what
Okay.
he told me. He
Wow.
said, this was the first major race where you started. Normally, I would get the lead at the tail end of the race, like the last 3 hurdles. I get the lead. It was always me sizing up the competition, seeing what I needed to do first,
Right.
and then attack. Like, oh,
Right,
this is how fast or slow they're going. Let me
Right.
kick it. But this race, I knew scouts was watching. I knew colleges was watching. I knew all of that was watching, and that was in my head during that race. So I said, I got to take first. And what he told me was that I can tell that you weren't used to being a leader in a race. You got to learn how to be a leader. Leaders, he told me that, and I'm paraphrasing, this was 94, so this is a long time ago. But what I got from that was leaders don't look back and see who's necessarily following them.
Did you look back on
They
your race?
lead by example. No, but I was intentionally, I didn't look back physically with
Gotcha.
my eyes, but I look back emotionally. I look back like they're close. I got to get faster. I don't want anybody to beat me. So
Is that why you fell?
that rushed my process.
Gotcha.
And I got clipped. Like we were close, but I was moving so fast that I got clipped. So if I was strong enough, when I got clipped, that wouldn't have bothered me. I would have got my balance and kept going, but I didn't. So I wasn't strong enough. So he said, well, we're going to practice Monday. We're going to work on strength. We're going to work on your strength. I want you at practice. I want you to be in everything he taught me from that point on was about being a leader on the track, about being a leader on for the team. You have to be the first one here. You can't miss practice. You can't have the excuse of I left my shoes, because right now you're the only hurdler we have. So it's just you.
Wow.
It's just you. You run the 110s. You run the 400s. You're the only hurdler we have on our team.
You ran at 400 hurdles?
I hated those. I hated it. I only ran them for points. I hated the 400 hurdles.
Yeah, that's the worst.
But I ran both for the team.
Yeah.
And so everything he would teach me was something about leadership, something about, like, you know, when you're sitting on the bus, you don't sit in the back, don't sit in the middle. You're a leader. You sit in the front. You sit close to the front. And those are the things that he taught me as far as the intangibles of being a leader. And people are going to follow you regardless. They're going to follow you one way or the other. If you're going the wrong way, you're going to get a certain amount of people that's going to follow you.
Right.
If you're going the right way, same thing. So make sure you're doing what's right for yourself so that the people that are following you are going to do the right thing as well. So it taught me responsibility as well.
Right.
Came back to that second race. I mean, next year, follow up that next race, fell again. Got up this time, though. Got up this time and got scholarship offers. So I fell 2 times in the same race, in the same relay event, and got a scholarship offer that second time.
So what was the difference between you getting up, well, not getting up the first time and getting up the second time? Like, what was the difference? So what did that show, not just you, but everybody who was watching you?
Everybody falls. And everybody who saw me fall was watching. They were watchers
Yeah.
of my race. They were never in my race. These were
Yeah.
everybody they were watching. So even the people that ran with me when I fell, good race.
Yeah.
Good race. So it taught me that people are watching you regardless.
Yeah.
It's how you respond to adversity, how you respond to life is what they're gonna remember.
Yeah.
Everybody falls.
Yeah.
How you get up.
Yeah.
So that's what that taught me, falling twice.
And did you get good race from your peers or and people in the stands the first time you fell? Or
honestly, I don't remember. All I remember was being angry at myself and going off into, you've been to a track event where the team sits together.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. That first time I fell, I was gone. I was gone for hours, and I just was embarrassed and angry. And my coach found me. Yeah. So I don't remember too much about the first time I fell.
Yeah.
Outside of not finishing the race.
Yeah.
But I do remember falling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe we give people permission either way, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, you falling the first time, the year one, you gave people the permission to go off and be angry and, well, first of all, not get up, walk off, and be angry, right? So, and people saw that, even though that you don't remember, people saw you walk off. Mm-hmm. The following year, you did it, same race, you fell, but you got back up, and you gave people permission to actually get back up. Okay, well, if this guy can do it, I can do it. And then after the race, they gave you your flowers, good race because you finished. I think that a lot of people have a hard time finishing things in life, right? Because things get hard, they get frustrating. They're harder than they think in our mind, but after we do them physically, they're not as hard as we thought they were. Right. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that when you got back up, you gave other people permission to be great. Right. You based on how they saw you fall. I know falling is embarrassing. I know, 100%, especially in front of like a crowd. So I get thousands. So your ability to get up and finish showed not just the people in the stands, but the other athletes, right? Well, you know what? Falling is okay. Falling is something that happens, but what matters is that it's, do I get back up, or do I just lay there, or just crawl away and hide? Right. Most people in this world, they do what? They crawl away and hide, right? But when I see people like you who get up, you know what? It's okay. It's okay when to fall, but it's really okay to get up. So I think you showed people two things back then.
Yeah, I definitely. And you know what? It's crazy that we put it in that perspective, because I say that I taught myself two different things. Yeah. And when you do it from that standpoint, when you look at it like, what did I learn? Who did I become after that? Both times. And you don't really focus on everybody else, But I'm sure that we had, because when I first started hurdling, I had a rabbit, I would say, who was a senior, who was pretty good, So it was always he and I, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then once he graduated, it was just me. And the second time I fell is when I had. By then, I think I'm a junior. I'm a junior.
When you fell.
Yep. And when I fell the second time. And then after that fall is when underclassmen, so your freshman, was like, I want to try hurdling, and I want to, and my coach would be like, okay, he's a freshman hurdler. Basically, he's watching you.
Right.
Exactly. He's watching you. So everything that you do,
right.
It's almost like he was a parent in a sense, which they are. Yeah. He would tell me how to get in line, and then it was up to me
pass it down
to get my young hurdler in line. So now I'm responsible for a whole nother person, in essence, on the track. So I can't not And I'm competitive. I don't want you better than me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want our times. You know, I want us to be 1-2, not 2-1.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not 1-2.
Yeah.
You know, so that made me, you know, iron sharpens iron. That made me want to work just as hard because now I got somebody on my back that's chasing me. So yeah, it just helped me to be a better leader.
Yeah, and I know like most people admire athletes. Most people try sports, but then we realize how difficult it is to perform.
Yeah.
Right? It's challenging. It takes a certain mindset. I mean, you can build that mindset, but in sports, you don't win a lot. You don't. You lose a lot of games, a lot of races. You lose, and to be able to have a mindset to come back after that, is something that builds you and makes you become who you're going to be. Right?
Whatever that looks like,
Whatever,
you know, whatever that looks
whatever
like.
looks like. But and I see why people quit sports, right? I see why people, doing me. Even the slowest person on the track, or the one who rides the bench in a football game, basketball game, or baseball game, if they stick it out and they just sit there and ride it, versus the superstar who quit, I believe that the one who's not as talented will actually learn more about life than a superstar who quit, right?
Absolutely.
Because they're in the environment, they're in the energy, they're learning different things every single day, right? So that's beautiful for me.
I like to see people who are in sports. I don't watch how they perform during the game. I like to see what's their dedication like, what's the work like, what's the work ethic like? Like, are you down to do 2-a-day practices?
Yeah.
Are you down to, do some things that make you uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Because I was never the greatest basketball player in high school. I was never even the greatest track star in high school. But I had the mindset to want to be great, whatever that looked like for me.
Right.
So I did things that I hated to do. Like my coach would have us, we would run cross country. We would
As a hurdler?
As a hurdler,
Wow.
yeah. We ran cross country for I only ran hurdles for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we ran cross country. Now, mind you, I played basketball too.
Okay.
So it was basketball,
Yeah.
cross country, track and field.
Wow.
Right back to basketball, and repeated that cycle for like 2 years straight.
Yeah.
So, and cross country wasn't for us to win. We wasn't trying to win cross country. We were trying to build our endurance up to win those short races, so that I wouldn't get gassed out running the 400 hurdles.
Right.
And if you needed me to run a 200, I could run a 200. Or you needed a body in the 100, I can run for points or whatever.
Right.
So it taught me that. I hated it, bro. I hated cross country, but I knew that it was a means to an end.
Right.
And that's where my mindset is always that, like, what ultimately do I want? If that's what I want and this is what I have to do to get it, and it's going to make me uncomfortable, I have to do that because ultimately that's what I want. So it goes back to figuring out what you want to do and knowing that it's going to take work, it's going to take the feeling of being uncomfortable, it's going to take you having to question how far you can mentally and physically go. How far is that?
Do you think people? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Do you think most people spend their life being uncomfortable or not, or too comfortable?
Damn, that's a great question. It depends on the person. Like, I would say they spend their more life being comfortable because that's easy.
Yeah.
And it's not until you jump out of the nest, so to speak, your proverbial nest. It's not until you jump out of there until you realize, damn, okay, I can learn this. I was in a position where I stayed at this location for work for 6 years. I was like, I'm not everybody I know here. I know the ins and outs. I'm comfortable, but I want to grow. And it was a supervisor or a manager, I can't remember, but it was someone above me that said, you will never grow staying here.
Wow.
You have to leave here in order to grow, to get to where you want to get to. So ultimately, it was either stay and be comfortable. You know everybody. You know you can probably get away with some stuff. It's easy, or completely new environment, completely new people, completely new everything, and go here and still trend up and get to where you want to go. It's a no-brainer. You know, we should all have goals, and that was a part of my goal. I couldn't not deny myself that.
Right.
And once I did that, I realized the world opened up for me. Like I saw different styles of organizational skills, management skills, how to conduct certain meetings, how to have difficult conversations with people, how to hold people accountable better, So I learned all of that. And I tell everybody now, when you start to feel comfortable, you should start to get a little anxious, a little antsy, because you should want to always strive to be, better,
I agree. I think that people spend their life comfortable living an uncomfortable life, right? So they're comfortable, where they are, but they're, say for example, it's work, right, or career, but they're uncomfortable because their career job is not paying their bills. It's not taking them to where they want to go. They're not advancing. So they're uncomfortable in their life, but they're comfortable in that job, right? Or if a person's in a relationship, they're comfortable being there, but the uncomfortability of being with that person is affecting their life, right? So it's like both in a sense, right? And I just believe people need to, in a sense, like wake up and figure out like exactly what they want, right? What does success mean to them?
Exactly.
Right. So if you are in a spot where this is not where I want to be, but you're staying there because you're comfortable and you're so afraid of the unknown, right? Because I believe the unknown is where you create what you want. Because if it's nothing there, you go and you feel that, right? Put something there,
right?
But most people are scared of the unknown, because even me, I mean, I used to be scared of the, I was scared of, well, if I take this step and I don't know what's out there. Well, once you go create what's out there, find something, and even that's scary, right? Even saying the words, it's easy to say, but even doing that, but the fear that grips people is like, I can't make that move because I've been in this job for 5, 10, 15 years. If I leave, I'm not sure what that, like, how it looks or what's going to happen. So their life is comfortable, but they're living in an uncomfortable pace, if that makes sense, right?
No, because people, like you said, the more comfortable you get in a situation or an area or a job, the more confident you also get in that space as well, because you know all the ins and outs. So, yes, while I may want something else, I might not feel like, I'm competent. Maybe I don't have the space to learn something new.
Yeah.
I'm scared that, if this doesn't work out, and I've already grown accustomed to this side of the area of the room, and if I go over here, I don't know if I'm going to, adapt well. I don't know if I'm going to succeed as well. I don't. This is one I don't feel like starting over.
Right.
I don't. So you start to self-doubt. You start to question yourself. You start to tell yourself all these negative things, all these excuses of why you shouldn't move forward, but you still are stuck in this situation. So, you ask people, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do? What does success look like for you? And they'll paint you a nice picture. Okay. Why can't you get that?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You know me. Why? Why can't you get that? Well, I've been here. I've been at this job, and now I'm about 2 years away from retirement. Or I'm like 3 years away from retirement. I might as well. I've invested so much. You've either invested so much or you have bullshitted yourself so much,
right.
That you've wasted time. But if that's what you really want, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it, because if you don't, somebody else is going to do it, and then you're going to be mad because man, I was just thinking about that. I
Yeah.
could have done that.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you? So I always say if you want something, you figure out the necessary steps to get there because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
So you definitely got to make sure, this is what you want.
Yeah. It definitely won't be easy. And I also think that at times we sort of self-sabotage ourselves, right? Like big time. We want more out of life, and I believe that's okay. It's okay to want more out of life, right?
Absolutely. You should.
We want more, but at the same time, we're not thankful and grateful for what we have, right? You mentioned like my week had some hurdles, had some things that more things did not go my way than went my way last week, right? I had more in a sense hurdles than just like straight pass. And I'm like, why is this shit happening? Like, this is not how, everything I want to accomplish, I did not accomplish. And I found myself getting into like a spiral, a funk of like, what, damn, what now? What else, right? But then
Down that rabbit hole.
right,
Trust
but
me.
then, I stopped. God stopped me. It's like, bro, okay, this is what happened. We get it. It happens. But what are you grateful for? Right?
Right.
What can you thank me for? And I started looking at all the things. I mean, even like, what? I'm actually driving down the street in a car, right? I'm not walking. I'm not on the bus. I'm not over there on the side of the street, just in the hot sun. I started thinking about all these little things that I'm so thankful for, right?
Yeah.
And that changed my mindset. And then when that changed, guess what? Things started turning around, right? Because we spend our time in such a nagging, complaining mode, and not knowing that everything that's going wrong in our lives is because of something that we created, right? It's because of our own mindset, right?
Yep.
No one set out to sabotage you. Right,
Right.
No one did that. You know
man
what?
didn't get you.
I'm gonna wake up today. And my goal is to, I'm gonna fuck with Barron today. Right, that's my goal. Right, but if we realize that everything that we experience is based on something that we did, we created, or if it's something that's based on how we thinking. Right, if you're thinking negatively, most likely something negative is gonna happen to you. Right. If you think about why something went wrong, okay, you know what? Fine, it went wrong. But you can switch that by switching your thinking. And someone, I forgot how the conversation what came about, but it was talking about how someone wanted their spouse to change, right? That he or she needs to change. And they were talking to a therapist. And therapist said, okay, you know what? If you want, for example, if you want him to change the way you see him, right? I was like, whoa,
Right.
right? So it's because it's all based on us, right? It's based on how we see things, how we feel things, and how we see the world. Everybody has their own model of the world, right? And that model is a positive model or a negative model. But
You choose.
You choose, and how you see it is based on who you are. We see the world based on who we are, right?
Absolutely.
It's all about our internal dictates our external, right? So it's like just like being, and I know that was a topic today, like being grateful for things, but I think gratitude changes so much.
Gratitude is one of the most important things that we have. I always say, if you go back, gratitude, being thankful for what you have, but also wanting more is not a crime. Not wanting to be more, wanting to excel, wanting to have the faith that you can be better. There's nothing wrong with that, But when you are so focused on what you want to be that you forget what you have around you is a problem. Like, we only can speak for ourselves. I am the biggest warrior in my family.
Warrior or
not
like,
warrior
or like warrior.
Worry.
Okay,
worry.
gotcha.
I'm the biggest worrier in my family.
Okay.
I thank God that none of them worry as much as me because everybody thinks I'm laid back and I'm like this, just
You're internal.
laid back. I'm like a duck above water. It looks really smooth.
Yeah.
But underneath, them legs is just going. And my family is not. They keep me crew. So when I'm worried about something, I get a either don't worry about it, or I get some rest.
Yeah.
Or I get just I took care of that already, or whatever. So whatever you were tripping on, just you don't worry about it. So I thank God. I'm grateful that they aren't like me in that sense, because they calm me down, they ease my mind, they bring me my most purest form of peace, my most purest form of joy. They bring it to me. So, no matter what, how bad I'm worried, no matter how far ahead I'm thinking along the lines, they are my even keel. So when I start to think like that, when I start to downward spiral or spiral down into that rabbit hole, we mentioned being grateful. Like, you can't be grateful and be a victim at the same time.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
You start being grateful, and you start thanking, for everything. When we pray, we're so thankful for what we have. We're so thankful for what's in store for us. But we honor and we give thanks for what we have. So we never lose sight of how grateful we are. But even when those days when you lose sight, you have to be grateful for where you currently are.
Right.
Sometimes it's better to just step back, look at what you've created, look at what's around you, and say, I had a hand in this. Like, it was me, God, and my partner. Yeah. I had a hand in all of this, and there's not one day where I'm always looking around and I'm like, thank you, God, thank you. It could be storming outside. And I'm so thankful I can turn my heater on.
Right.
Or it's 102 outside. I'm so thankful I have the option to say, I'm just gonna chill in the house. I'm gonna do everything from the house today. Yeah. And I'm just gonna be under the fan and the AC. That's you don't never lose you never lose sight of those things. Yeah. And then more importantly, you never know who needs to hear something nice. I say that because I was in the grocery store, and I was thinking like, damn, it's gonna be crowded in here. Let me just get a little. I'm thinking selfishly, like, I need to just get something, get the hell out of here. I'm not trying to be around all these people, and it's gonna be crowded, and I just don't want to be around it. And I just started thinking about, I got this to take care. I got this to take care of. Going down that rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the grocery store, and I have this mindset of anxiety, and I follow myself. Be grateful. I'm thinking, okay, I need to be grateful for something.
Right.
And lady's ringing me up, and I'm talking to her, and I just say, thank you. I just said, thank you. And she's like, oh, she's like, well, I'm just doing my job. I said, no, thank you. How's your day? Right. How's your day going? And she said, I just got here. I said, okay, well, have a good day. Thank you, and appreciate your time. And kept it pushing. But in that whole interaction, I wasn't tripping on nothing I had to think about. So you purposely and intentionally are grateful. You purposely and intentionally try to be a lighthouse wherever you are. Wherever you are, you try to be a lighthouse, because if you go around, anybody can be negative. Right. Anybody can talk shit. Anybody can be, the sky is falling. Anybody can do that. That's easy for people to do. It's easier. It's harder to stay positive and to spread that positive light to others than it is for, to just walk around and say, the world sucks. Everybody in it sucks.
I don't understand that. I know that bad shit happens. Yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm. But it takes so much energy to be a Debbie Downer or a David Downer or whatever. It takes so much energy. It takes so much from you. It increases your stress. It increases your ability to get sick. It's heavy, and that's what people do daily. Like, that's their default. And I don't know if it's some kind of protection mechanism, but it's like a default. And it takes work to, of course, to be happy and be outgoing and be grateful, but that's so much of a better quality of life.
True.
Right?
And I don't think we are not saying that nobody walks around life skipping up
Yeah.
and down the roads of
Yeah.
life, like it's like they're just down this yellow brick road. Nobody's doing that.
But you're choosing not to do
You're
that.
choosing not to do that, or you're
to
choosing
do that.
You're choosing to do that, but to do it on a consistent basis. There's going
Right.
to be times where you're going to be down. There's going to
Right.
be times where you're going to be upset. There's going to be
you gotta
times.
fight through that shit though.
Yeah, you have to fight through it. Like you
Yeah.
can't stay in the mud.
Yeah.
You can't stay in the mud. You have to realize, like, look, it could be worse.
Yeah.
When you start thinking like it could be worse, and then talk to yourself,
Yeah.
well, how could it be worse?
Yeah.
Okay, are you outside begging for change?
Right.
Do you know where your next meal is coming from?
Right.
Stuff like that. Do you have a physical, how are your kids in life?
Yeah.
Because those are our legacies. Those
Right.
are, that's who we. And if your kids aren't doing well, then get on the ball.
Right.
Now you start investing in your kids, and
Right.
now you're being grateful. Now you can't play woe is me and try to better your kids
Yeah.
and try to better. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do both. So it's just you have to pick and choose. Yes, I'm down right now. Yes, I may be, anxious about whatever, but I choose today at this moment,
Yeah.
To not be that way.
I don't know if you have, but in my life, in my almost 50 years, well, I might as well just say I'm 50 now.
5-0.
5-0. In my years, I have never, ever, ever met anybody who became successful or got what they want by complaining and crying about stuff. I've never met anyone who got that. Have you?
Mm-mm. I don't see anybody. If anything, they realize what the problem is and they attack it head on. That's how I see that. But just to be like, woe is me and complaining all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We're not winning.
Yeah.
We're not. If anything, we're being, for lack of a better word, stagnant. We're being stagnant if we had to choose, as opposed to
Or
moving forward.
even you're like stunting your growth.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're constantly complaining about the same thing over and over and over and over again, is it the thing you're complaining about, or is it something that's within you that you need to address?
Little secret about me. I do not hang around anybody that complains about the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. We're going to have complaints in life, and you need an ear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But if every time I talk to you, it's the same thing, you're not going to hear from me that much. You're not going to hear from me that much, because if I'm your friend, I'm going to tell you, so what are we doing about it?
Right. Right.
What are we doing about it?
Right.
If we're doing nothing, then you can do nothing by yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't.
I may have talked about this before on a podcast, but I saw a video on social, and it was a guy in it was a cartoon, right? Guy in a Porsche. Guy in a Porsche pulls up to a red light, and a guy in a Ford pulls up next to him. So guy in a Ford's like, wow, I wish I had that Porsche, right? That dude's lucky, right? So the guy in a Ford, a guy in a bike pulls up to him. He's like, man, I wish I had that Ford, right? That's a nice Ford, right? Dude's lucky. The guy on the bike, and then next to him, visualize a guy on a bus stop waiting for a bus. He's like, damn, that guy's a bike. I wish I had a bike and then I had to take the bus, right? Got on the bus. Next to him was a guy walking, right? Wait, man, I wish I had money for a bus because I gotta walk, right? Next to him was a guy in a wheelchair, right? Like, man, I wish that I can walk, right? But it's like everybody looks up to you for what you have. Where everybody, put it this way, you have something that someone doesn't have,
Right.
So be grateful for what you have,
Exactly.
right?
And not focus on what you don't have.
Right.
You can pick and choose where you want to put your focus on.
Right.
Because what you put your focus on is what's gonna materialize and
You
grow.
have more of that.
So, yeah, you can either say, woe is me, I don't have this or that, or you can say, I'm blessed. I'm thankful that I have X, Y, Z. You know, so it's definitely about perspective, and you have to be adult enough
Yeah.
to kind of understand that it could be worse, and there are people that wish they had your life. You know, and just like it could be worse, if it was worse, think about how you would feel if it was worse. You know, if you were living under a freeway.
Right.
You know, if you were, you know, if you couldn't do certain things that you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
You know, but
You definitely get more of what you think about. If you complain about something, you're going to get more of that.
absolutely.
I was listening to a video this morning, and it was talking about like the mind. The mind is like a fertile planting ground, right? And it talked about, he compared the mind to a garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, like, you know what, I have two seeds here. You know, the garden doesn't care what you put in there. Its job is to grow what you put in there, right? And again, garden and mind, same thing, right? He was saying that the farmer has a seed, a corn seed in one hand, and then in the next one he has a seed of a nightshade of poison, right? He dropped both seeds into the ground, water them, take care of them. One grew to be corn, and one grew to be a poisonous plant. Now, it didn't matter because the ground of mind, it's going to grow whatever we plant and whatever we water, right?
Yep.
So you can plant good seeds in your head, grow them, water them, and they're going to be good seeds. But you can also plant poison into your mind, and that's going to grow into be something as well too. So our mind is like fertile ground. Whatever you put in there, positive, negative, it's going to grow it.
Absolutely.
Right, 100%.
Like, why do you think they always, when we were younger, this is your brain,
Right,
this is your brain on drugs,
right. That fried
A
egg.
mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Right.
You know, they always would tell you it's a terrible thing to waste, but they would never tell you why. Because the mind is so powerful that it can create anything, negative or positive, that it wants.
Right.
And whatever, like you said, whatever you nurture, whatever you cultivate, whatever you water, it's going to grow and evolve into something bigger than what it was when it started.
Right.
So, they've been telling us for years how important the mind is.
Yeah.
You know, and we are not made by accident. How we are made is not by accident. That's why, if you know, our mind is supposed to be one of the strongest things on our body. That's why it's at the top.
strong. Yeah.
That's why it's at the top. It dominates everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's the strongest muscle that we'll have. It's the most powerful thing that we'll either utilize or not utilize. So, you know, that's why it's positioned the way it's positioned.
Right.
You know, we don't walk on our minds. You know, we don't. Our minds are not in our hands or anything like that. It sits above.
It controls everything.
It controls everything. Our feet don't control our mind.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to make sure that we are cultivating our garden the best way we know how, and not poison it with negative thoughts. And, you know, what kills a garden is weeds. Every garden's going to get weeds, though.
Yeah. Everyone.
Every garden is going to get weeds.
You gonna let them grow, or you gonna kill them?
Exactly. And then pretty soon you get a routine on how to kill these weeds, and then what happens? They eventually they get lower, and you get lesser and lesser weeds. The more you tend to your garden. So I say that to say, the more you do positive things, the more you cultivate, the more you stay on top of your proverbial garden, the less likely negativity, weeds are going to come in and infect what you're cultivating.
Yeah.
So,
or you see them, or there's a weed there, you go in and get it quickly. Don't wait till it grows. You take care of it right there.
That's not supposed to
be there, right?
Get it out.
Right.
So acknowledging it, that's not supposed to be there. It's gonna. I was about to catch myself. It's going to arrive. The weed. It's going to arrive regardless.
It's going to grow.
It's going to grow regardless. That's okay. It's going to grow regardless.
I'm trying to think what could you say about? Okay, it's going to grow.
It's going to grow regardless, no matter how you are
Yeah.
tending to it. But as long as you stay on top of it, your negative thoughts they're gonna pop up. You're gonna question yourself. You're going to that weed of
Yeah.
self-confidence, that weed of a lack of self. It's gonna arise.
Yeah.
But that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You know who you are.
Yeah.
Get it out.
It's like looking at a beautiful golf course, the amazing grass. Do you think a weed never grows there?
Right. It grows there constantly.
Right.
But that's someone's job to make sure that green grass stays green grass year round, because your job is to make sure that nothing negative infiltrates where
in your life. That job is yours. You have to make sure that you're constantly pruning your mind. Because you're right, things are going to come in, things are going to happen. We're going to have these weeks where we hurdle because life is not perfect. Life is far from perfect.
Absolutely.
But we can get back to where we need to be by just a thought, or we can go further into the pit, the hole, by just a thought. But the choice is up to you. And I know people tend to choose the road to destruction and making the hole deeper. I don't know why, and that's something that I want to figure out, because that is something. Because it's just like one thing that really irritates me is heat. Heat, being hot, be sweating. I'm like, I hate it. Right. So last weekend, my kids got CAF prelims on the track.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And last weekend it was 100 degrees in Orange County. So I am sitting there, umbrella baking, pouring down sweat, right? And I'm like, you know what? And my son, I love him more than anything. He's punching me, hitting me, grabbing me.
Get the fuck away from me. Get the fuck away from me.
Of course, I couldn't say that. I'm like,
right.
But it's like in those moments, you have to catch yourself, because you can easily let that moment, let the situation, let my irritation come out of me, and that would affect somebody else. Right. Or that will put me more into a deeper, more a worse mood. Right. So the more that you study and the more that you pour into yourself, the more that you recognize and learn from what you did, the more you can manage that. Because it'll be easy for me to snap and like anybody, right? Oh, what you looking at? It's like and next to me, picture this, track meet, right? We're sitting in the stands. We're lucky to get a spot on the railing where we can bring our own chairs, right?
These are metal bleachers?
Yep, metal bleachers, yep. So yeah, more heat, right?
More heat.
So we got a spot right up front. We're right there. Next to us was a Caucasian couple, and I think maybe it was their parents, because they're older, right? Next to them was a black couple that had their chairs, umbrella, fan, and they were bumping music like they're at a barbecue.
They know what it takes to be comfortable.
But the thing is that they're playing music at a track meet like they're at a barbecue. Track meets, they have the people talking on the microphone.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, we can't hear.
That's us,
right?
That's what we do.
And they just there chilling like it's not a backyard barbecue,
right.
But I get it. But I could have took that as like, I'm like, just let them do what they need to do.
Let them cook,
right? Let them cook. So it's like certain things that we can easily make a fuss about. We can easily complain about. We can easily say, they're doing that because they don't like me. No, they're not. Right? You take care of and deal with your issues, my issues. Like, I figure out why do I have a problem with heat, right? So that's something I'm still processing through.
Right. A lot of people just don't like to be hot. I don't want to be hot.
Me.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Knowledge of self is very important.
But the thing is, like, why does that cause irritation?
Heat irritates.
I know.
Being hot, it's irritating.
Don't touch me.
Yeah. Don't touch me. Don't do none of that. So I got to remember to get you a fan for Vegas. in August.
Something that blows cool air.
But yeah, that I mean, you got when you know yourself, you're gonna act accordingly. You're gonna do better. There's some things I don't really care for. I don't like, but I'm knowing that you have to make actionable steps to be better. So you knew you were irritated. You knew that.
Yeah.
So you all right. So I'm irritated. I'm not letting that irritation leave my proverbial garden.
Yeah, because it has nothing to do with my kid, my boy.
Nope.
Nothing at all.
So that is knowledge of self, and that is also not spreading that energy. You know, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Because what if it happens a lot? People get hot or they get upset, or someone's driving and they cut you off.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get somewhere and they cut you off. First thing you're gonna do, what the fuck? This motherfucker, right? You start going off and you're like, you hot, but you don't know. Maybe this person is trying to get to a loved one that's in the hospital.
You don't know.
Maybe they're, trying to get to a child that's being born.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
So why save that energy because you're gonna need it for something.
Right.
Don't waste that energy on stuff that you can't control.
Right.
Use that energy where in the right places where it should be used. So, preserving yourself.
Yeah.
You never know.
So we talked about gratitude today.
We did talk about gratitude.
So what you got for us in closing on gratitude? Talk to the people.
Gratitude. Let's make sure that we are intentional about gratitude for ourselves, and more intentional when we are feeling anxious or feeling unnerved, to be more intentional to show gratitude towards others, because you never know what that person is going through.
Right.
You never know. And I would just tell people to be the change that they want. If you want people to be nicer to you, you want people to respect you, you want people to show love, starts with you. It starts with you. Go show love. Start giving people their flowers and start doing that now.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, that shit's just gonna eat away at you. So
that reminds me of a quote by Robert Williams, the actor, and he said, "Always be kind because you never know what someone's going through." Right.
Yep.
Let's be kind. So that was the truth about him. That's fine. All right, cool. All right, guys. Thank you always for watching. Please like, please share, subscribe, and again, if anybody you know who needs this podcast, please share with them, because our mission is to get this message out to people. And we'll see you guys next week. Have an amazing week. Peace.